Joining us now is Democratic Congressman Joe Courtney of Connecticut. Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon, Martin.
Let me read a statement by one of your GOP colleagues, Renee Elmers. President Obama is once again exploiting a tragedy for political gain and eroding our constitutional rights for the sake of an extreme liberal agenda. Sir, can you explain the thought process of some of your colleagues after what the President said today?
Well, they're obviously looking at the hysterical reaction of special interest groups and not actually looking at the executive order, which, for example, says we're going to crack down on people who lie on background checks. 10,000 people got caught lying last year in their Brady background checks, and only 44 were prosecuted. This order says, you know what, we're going to step up enforcement of that. If anyone thinks that that's eroding people's constitutional rights, to say we're going to punish people or prosecute people more vigorously for breaking existing laws, then they obviously are engaged in a dialogue that does not have any bearing on reality. What President Obama did was keep his solemn promise that he made to the people in that room 30 days ago, which is that he was going to change things, and good for him.
Absolutely. The superintendent of Newtown Schools gave some very powerful testimony about what happened on December the 14th. Here's just a sample, sir. Take a listen.
Anne Marie Murphy was the educational assistant for a young boy with some special needs, and she died trying to shield him, as was the case of Rachel Davina, a behavior therapist. None of these brave women were trained in combat. They were elementary school educators dedicated to educating their young children. So their first response when confronted by this terror was to protect their children.
Mr. Courtney, I'd like to think Republicans can't ignore that kind of testimony, but 179 of them just ignored the victims of Hurricane Sandy. How do you get a few good Republicans to help pass legislation that will make this country safer?
Well, clearly what happened with Sandy, and frankly what happened with every other flashpoint over the last 2 years, is that President Obama engaged public opinion. He did it with student loans. He did it with Hurricane Sandy. He did it with the fiscal cliff. They obviously originated measures in the Senate because the House right now, because of that dysfunctional caucus, the Republican caucus is incapable of originating anything that has a prayer of becoming law, and that we use that process to basically shake those votes loose of those individuals who, again, I have talked to numbers of Republicans privately in the wake of Newtown who care about this. There really are people on the other side of my aisle who I think we can work with on this. And again, common sense measures about making existing laws work, which is essentially what the president did today with his executive orders, and also looking at measures that gun owners in my district has said they could support about limiting the size of ammunition clips, strengthening the background check system. I mean, these are measures which from my own experience, they believe and they will support.
Congressman Joe Courtney, thank you. And thank you also, sir, for your service to that community.
Thank you, Martin.
And we'll be right back.